I know if I keep saying this long enough, I will convince some of you. You are God's treasure. Yes? Yes. But you are also marked men and women. When I say you're marked, you have the biggest target on your back. So do I. Once you settle that, you're halfway there to understanding what this journey is about. Now, the trouble is, I think sometimes, and I'm talking now to some of you who are somewhat faithful, not all the time. You like waffle a little bit here and there. I'm talking to the faithful ones who they know what I'm saying is true. The minute you are turned from going your way to God's way, you have a giant, just remember this, you have a giant mark on you. You are a target. And we are no match for the devil. We think when we come, because we've listened to so much of the happy Christianity that's out there, I'm not saying that Christians are unhappy, but we've listened to all that fluffy stuff, that we can't believe when something happens. But I'd like to tell you, there is a pattern that repeats itself. It has repeated itself here for many, many years. And now I'm just experiencing something that is an additive to that same situation. Some of you suffer here from putting on me what I call the carpenter's son syndrome, which is, isn't that the carpenter's son? Isn't that the son of Mary and Joseph? And when you read carefully, it says that that's the only place that he went to, Jesus, where he could do no mighty works. But he didn't stop being God. He didn't stop being God in the flesh, but he couldn't do anything there because the people looked at him and said, he's just the carpenter's son. And I think some people here have suffered from that. Now, believe me, I'm not deifying myself. I'm just simply saying sometimes failure to understand, regardless of the container, you're hearing God's word. It's easy to sit back with a bad attitude and a wrong attitude and say, well, that's just Mrs. Scott right there. That's Dr. Scott's wife. You can go down the litany of things that I've heard over the years, and it doesn't matter which corner you want to take. What it really comes down to, it took me crisis of this last week to really solidify this in my mind. What it really comes down to is that Dr. Scott taught people the life of faith, the lessons of faith, taught how to put faith in action, but many people stopped faithing. They stopped acting in faith. And I'm going to take something right out of a page. It's a transcript from a message he preached, where he said, I have a feeling that I have a church full of people that have fixed their gaze on fact and are rocking along under the delusion of believing the advertisement of past performance that you are actually in faith. And he goes on in this message to say how many people around him are facting, not faithing. They want it to be seen and revealed. Now let me give you the good side of this, because the message today has much to do with getting some of you back into the faithing habit. And if you are already still faithing, then just take it as something that's going to shore up your faith. We've got many new people who don't even know what faith is. And if you ask them, they will either point to Hebrews 11 as a definition, Hebrews 11:1 is a definition, which it is not, or they will tell you, well, the life of faith produces, and they'll give you the list of do-dos, and basically kind of what is a Christian? A Christian is, a Christian does, a Christian says. So many people around me, let me say the good part, you, and many of you listening at home, you acted in faith, not being able to see or understand, but you knew God's promise and you knew God's word and you knew that somehow God will make a way. Isn't that the general premise of all we say, is God will make a way somehow where there is no way? Because if there was a way, why would we need him, right? We'd need God. So some of you, you just stuck with me. Sometimes it was a battle to kind of hang in there, but most of you sitting here today sat and prayed for me and sat and believed God to see what you couldn't see. And that's the good side of things, because that says that you stayed by the stuff when you couldn't see a way. I remember some here, look down here, right here, this young man right here, who used to be on staff. And right before, I don't mean to embarrass you, but right before Dr. Scott got really sick, I called you and a whole bunch of people into the garage at the other building, and I said, because I was administrator, I said, I'm going to have to turn my back soon because I will have to take care of Dr. Scott. I knew he was getting sick. What the walk away from this meeting was, well, there's no ministry without Dr. Scott. That's kind of the gist of it. And I don't blame you, because it's like saying, what life do I have without him? We all feel that way and felt that way. But on the flip side, faith says, well, I can't see how this is going to work out. I'm still here, right? Can't see how this is going to work out. I'm pointing him because this is like two of my favoriteest people in the universe sitting right there. But you don't see how it's going to work out. But it does. God enters in, and he makes a way where there is no way. So the ones that kind of stayed by the stuff, you already have some foundation, 10 plus years of seeing me come and being by my post sick or whatever it is, but I'm here, and I'm expecting God to do for me. But the expectancy cannot just be, I'm claiming, I'm praying. I have been active. I've been in the Word, I've been praying, I've been doing all the things we're supposed to do that bring all of that activity of faith into one ball, claiming a promise, hanging my body on that promise that God said he would, and he will, because that's what he said. But it's really easy to start facting. And I'm just going to borrow what Dr. Scott said, because that really is the big challenge here. So I want to lead you through some thought process. I am going to use a text which I do not intend to come back to. I'm telling you in advance. I'm just going to read it. I may reference it, but I'm not going to come back to it. How's that? Normally the preacher says, we'll be back to it. And then you might wait a couple of years. And now faith, Hebrews 11, is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. That is not a definition of faith. I'll come back to that in a minute. Probably the greatest problem that exists when people read this particular passage of Scripture, Hebrews 11, is from the words that are being spoken out of the written word, transmitter gears in your brain go off, and you begin to sift what that should mean, what exactly that should mean. And let me give a perfect case in point. We've been talking about people's commitments, the health of the church, the ability to say, we're going to become solid as a band of believers, no matter what's going on, no matter who says what, we will stay by the stuff, hand to the plow, not looking back. Now, you say, okay, faith says, I'm hoping for something that I can't see, and it will be. I possess as Dr. Scott used to use the term, title deed to something that I have not yet fully taken possession of. And I think a lot of times what happens is people tend to drift off of this point, begin to take in this passage and many others regarding faith, and then they begin to make their own interpretation. So by faith can mean, by faith I'm praying, like the one that said to me, boy, I'm sure praying for the Lord to bless you with finances. And I didn't dare ask, because I already knew the question, that the one that was saying, I'm sure praying for the Lord to bless you with finances, hasn't sent in an offering. I felt like saying, boy, I'm sure praying for you to send in an offering. Because I love your prayers, but they don't pay the bills. Let's be real here, okay? And an expression, by the way, of the Spirit's operation in you. Corinthian. Anyway, we'll come back to that one later, because they had a little bit of trouble. They had every other gift except for the gift of giving. But faith is not something that we can just assume. As I said, many people that come to the ministry, that are relatively new to the ministry, will read this passage and say, that indeed is the definition of faith, which I said it is not. And then here come the traditions, and people will say, well, as long as I have faith, and they'll either go what I've called Jamesian on you, which is faith plus works, because if you don't have works, you have dead faith, and that is a lie. Or they will go the complete opposite pendulum, which is that, well, and I've heard this even from this congregation, That faith is, for you, if you cannot see me, radio people, I'm just going to sit on my chair here and sit on my hands and sing, I shall not be, I shall not be. I'm praying, Lord, for you to give me a message on Sunday morning. It's Sunday night now. Lord, I'm praying for you to give me a message on Sunday, next Sunday, and I've got a week, and all I decide to do every single day of the week is go out and play golf. Praise God, I don't play golf. I just shank. If you don't know that story, you don't want to know it. But I could just sit here and tell you about my great faith. I got faith that God's going to give me the right words to tell you, and I got faith that I'm going to learn a language or 10 languages or 20 languages. I got faith I'm going to do it, but I just sit here. So there's this delicate balance between the Jamesian folks who tell you, well, you got to have these works, which is an error, because all your good works are not going to bring you any closer to God. They're not going to get you in. It is by faith. And there is a paradox, which is if you read what Paul says in Galatians 5, when the Spirit is operating, the fruit of the Spirit, the outraying of the Spirit, love, peace, joy, all of the things that we look and we say, this is a microcosm, a small picture, if you will, of Christ-likeness in us. So not to be confused when we talk about faith and these people that say, well, you got to be doing these things, versus people that say, well, I'll just sit here and do nothing, because I'm claiming a promise. But claiming a promise is putting your whole entire being on God's word and ordering your life, your whole entire being, as though God has said something that has already come to pass, even though you cannot see it. One of the translations, I was going to write this out, and I said, no, I'll just read it to you. One of the translations in Hebrew, actually, of this passage in the New Testament. So it's it's Hebrew of Hebrews. But it says, now faith, to lean, mebatach uz, to lean with strength on the things waited for, to him, beleb, with the heart, and not to behold, to be seen with the eyes. A little similar, but essentially it says with the heart. You are believing with the heart for God to do something, which is a little bit beyond belief, because you are staying surely and confidently on what God has said. So it is not reciting a creed, and I really do believe that, like Elijah in Elijah's day, when Elijah showed up and Elijah said, as the Lord liveth, as the Lord God of Israel liveth, and added, in whose presence I stand, I think a lot of people take faith as the Lord liveth, but not in whose presence I stand. It's just a statement of that's that, and not a reality of God's presence. And if God is real, and if he is present, then I really do believe that faith is an element in the whole mix that by God's design reveals to us how we connect with him. Now that's such a simple statement. It seems like, well, everybody knows that. But some people think we connect with God by going out and doing things in our community and acting good and behaving good, and all of that may be great, but in a relationship with God, it won't bring you 1 inch closer to him. And there really is only one method, one way. So when we read Hebrews 11, faith is the substance, the hypostasis, the title deed of things hoped for. It is easy to slip back into the traditions, which some people have done. It's easy for some people to, and I say this, I need to get this off my back a little bit. It's easy for people to blame me. Now I want to tell you, as you are in this church that I am responsible for, and as long as you are in this building and you are listening to me, you're going to hear something from my mouth so it can be perfectly clear. I'm tired of people blaming me for their backsliding. At some point you just kind of say, I'm tired of this. It's such an easy cop-out, and boy, I got to share this with you so you know what I'm saying didn't just come off of a page somewhere, because I do have notes in front of me, but there's something in my heart, which is I get a little tired of hearing people say, well, my needs weren't met. Not so much anymore, but that used to be the thing. People used to lament that. Now, let me ask you something. If a man or a woman is hungry and you give them a cracker or a piece of bread, if you're hungry, you're going to eat that. If you're a spoiled brat and you have a bad attitude, you're going to, like a kid, you're going to turn your nose away. Well, I wanted that instead. Right? at some point that gets pretty old because, you see, I'm a hungry person, and I've stayed a hungry person. Because I do understand, I've tried to tell you this without, we don't do personal testimonies, but I've tried to tell you, I know what it is to live in darkness. I know what it is to live in the world. I know what it is to live apart from God. So at some point, you wake up to the fact that if you're able to hear, if you're able to grab hold of, that the Church of Jesus Christ, although it existed and exists to bring you light and to give you the water and to give you the understanding, it just doesn't exist only for you. Your whole needs are met when the gospel is being preached in total, the whole counsel of God, and you are receiving it by faith. And I get a little weary of this because so many people, over the years, I've heard say things that reflect a bad attitude. A bad attitude says, when people say, well, I can't listen, or I can't this, well, what it is it's your can't, it's not mine. It's your problem, it's not mine. Because I've already grabbed hold. That's why I said the ones listening to me, you already grabbed hold of the fact God's in control. Whatever happens here, God is in control. Not blind stupidity, but faith that says God is going to make a way. I'm believing to see a miracle. Now, let me ask you a question which is not rhetorical. Would you say, because most of you you've been sitting here and I was sitting with you once, would you not say that in me, even though we don't look for sights and we don't look for signs, wouldn't you say in me you've seen God work a great work and a great miracle? Yes. Now, anybody with a brain, I had to catch myself right there. Anybody with a brain would say, that's where I need to be. Not because there are other great things going on, but if God, we are creatures like this. We're constantly looking to grab hold of something tangible. And don't grab hold of me, right? But we're constantly looking for things to grab hold of. But here's something that God put right in your face. This is God's humor. He put something right in your face to give you an inspiration in a moment when everybody thought it's all over, everything's going to fall apart, it can't. I remember Dr. Scott talking about Claire Grace's prophecy and the note of joy, and he kept saying, and I know the joy is coming, and of course then he turned to me and he said, you're it. I think you're it. Well, the other part of that, he said, her prophecy was great miracles. Do you remember that? Yes. Well, you're looking at one. But I'm not setting myself apart because I know there are many great miracles right in front of me. Not the miracles that people seek for, the fantastic. These are even more fantastic. They're called saving the lost, the wrecked, the messed up, saving the ones that have perpetually removed themselves off of the wheel and even put themselves into the garbage can repeatedly over and over and over again. Those are the miracles. So if you were really connected in faith, wouldn't you be saying, I'm going to be here because whatever God has started in this woman, I'm speaking of me as your pastor, certainly God is also doing in me, and what he's done for me, like the song we sing, what he's done for others, he'll do for you. I get a little bit tired of hearing the same, they're less now, but the echoes of saying, oh, she's not ministering to my spirit. Well, has it ever occurred to you, friends, that you have a bad spirit? And God's word is never going to help a bad spirit. Let me refresh your memory about the Bible. You remember how God put a spirit on Saul who was trying to kill David? And then when David would play the music, he would get quieted down. But eventually, it says that God took away his spirit and he put an evil spirit on him. And that evil spirit could not be stopped. I think, this is why I said be careful. Some of you who do not realize you are marked men and women, you are marked because Christ is in you, the Lord of glory, and you walk around not seeing the temptation and the temptation to start facting instead of faithing and living the life of faith, which says, I cannot see, but I know my God, and I know he's real, and I know he's not a liar. And I really believe at some point, because I am a witness to this as well as a witness to what God has done for me. I'm a witness to what God eventually does when people start facting. They go, well, I want this, and I want it to be like this. Has it ever occurred to you that over the last 10 years, God has given me messages They're out of the same book that Dr. Scott taught, but he's giving me messages with a little bit different angle because I've lived a little bit different life, and that really is a benefit to you, seeing the whole counsel of God come alive in one who was a preacher's kid and one who was a complete reject of society, the two coming together to make a perfect pair in ministry. And for those who have stayed, and for those who listen, for those who have only heard me and have not heard him, or those who heard him and hear me, you understand it's God's way of saying, there are things you need yet to hear from the life experience of someone who has not only been terribly humiliated. When people say, well, I don't believe that she's humble at all. Well, listen, I'm not proving my humility to you. Lord knows how much I've been humiliated by a myriad number of things over the years, over many, many years. But I never stopped faithing. Yes, there was a time when I wanted to fact, like some of you. I wanted it to be that's it. And what I see is what I see. Yes, I'd like to walk into the sanctuary one Sunday morning and see, it's not a special occasion. Somebody didn't die. Somebody's not getting married, but you're all here to celebrate our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ and the gospel going forth to encourage me. That's kind of a facting thing. But the flip side is, I'm faithing for that. And I've told you, I'm not just going to sit and say, well, I'm going to believe this thing. I've told you, what is faith? Faith is action based upon belief, sustained by confidence. Now, we like to say that first word. It's like that Hebrew aleph, right? Just can't get it out of your mouth. But action begins with the fact that we settle something. God said, quit trying to sift what you think it means and begin to understand what it really means. Just like Hebrews 11 says, it's the title deed to something that's hoped for, but not yet. The eyes don't see it, but faith has grabbed hold of that. That's why we've taught the promises of God. Faith grabs hold of that which is not seen. Now, you know, you can just kind of drift with me through what I'm trying to do, or you can really take a good look at yourselves and ask the question. You know, the difficulty is attitude with God. It matters more to God, your attitude towards Him, His Word, and His minister. And I've tried to tell you in a very nice way, I'm not looking for your approval. I love you all, but I'm not looking for your approval. I have that one audience I have to play to, and that's Him. The people who don't like me or who don't want to listen to me, I've said on the way here, I said, hey, if these people don't want to listen, I've done this. God, these are your troubles. These are not my sheep. Jesus talked about the ones who can hear His voice. These ones, they're rebels. They're stiff-necked. They're still in their sins. They're still trying to convince everybody that sin is not really sin, that doing what I really want isn't sin after all, rationalizing. And therefore, because you rationalize, there is no faith in operation. There's only this mindset that says, I am right. And there goes the attitude. Psh, you're wrong. So, why I picked this verse today, and I have somewhere I'm going. I have had a very tumultuous, we'll call it the last 2-3 weeks with you as a church. I don't want you to get sad. I don't want you to say, well, is she berating us? I don't want you to think about any of that. I want you to think about if I was a hireling and I did not care. I would just say, it doesn't matter, leave it alone. Quit. You know, there's a fine line between trying to push people, like the under-shepherd, trying to push you and push you back into the right pasture and push you back into the right direction to develop faith habits again. And then there'll be that fine line where some people sit in, because their attitude is just 50-50, it's on the fence of being bad, they'll say, oh, I don't want to be berated, I don't want to be nagged. Forgetting, by the way, that when my late husband had enough, he didn't nag, he didn't brag, he just unleashed. And if you were alive afterwards, if you could come up for air, if you didn't soil your pants, now come on, be real. What I'm saying is not an exaggeration, okay? I mean, I'm saying it like it is. And yet I have people who think maybe the idea is, because there's no faith and in their mind, there's no challenges, it's boring. Well, friend, let me just tell you, it's a message that Dr. Scott preached a long time ago. You have to keep reaching for new faith handles and new challenges and new things Because otherwise what happens is yesterday's victories, the victories from 10 years ago and 20 years ago, doesn't matter. It's not going to carry you. So when we talk about faith, I'm sure there are a lot of people who say, well, I don't have any sickness and I'm financially well, and so I don't have any battles or any crisis to face. Well, good for you. But if you've been listening, if you're not sick, and you don't have any crisis, and you don't have anything pressing in your heart, your loved ones haven't given you grief, or your boyfriend or girlfriend hasn't left you, your husband or wife hasn't said the D word, and that's not dog, then when I've asked you to pray and start actively faithing for this ministry, it means you have nothing, you have no other worries, right? You have nothing else. I mean, if, considering that you don't have any of those problems that I listed, that means that you're free. You have a faith opportunity that's absolutely in your face, right? Well, only 3 said that because those are the 3 that maybe don't have any troubles. Because the rest of you know that life is complicated. It's complicated with our friends. It's complicated with our family. It's complicated everywhere you turn. There's something that is just plain messed up. Wish I could be more colloquial than that. But all I'm telling you is when we begin to talk about the life of faith, faith denies the circumstance. This should be as old-timey for some of you, and then there's new people that come and they don't even know what it is. They have no idea. They'll say, well, I think it's believe. In fact, let me just say something. It's really kind of been interesting. Some of you have listened to me and you've heard me introduce things that I believe, I wish Dr. Scott was still alive so we could have discussions over this, because there's areas in my mind that I'll go and reach and dig for, and I'll find something that you say, well, what about that? We've talked about the linguistic challenges of understanding the word faith, because our English uses a verb, believe, and many times in the Bible you'll find sometimes it says faith, and sometimes it says believe, but we know in the Greek it's the same one word for both. And yet when they began to translate, it became bifurcated. And seldom, if ever, does anybody explain the fact that as the language was really coming into its own, and you'll find if you use a book like the Oxford Dictionary, just happen to have this handy, the Oxford, you wouldn't want to live with my dictionaries. This is like volume 5 of like a 50 million volume set. But you will find that you can find the first uses of a word into the language to kind of find how we got to where we are with these 2 different words. But Greek all along has been saying faith is pistis. Faith will either be in the Greek, same word will either be a noun, or it will be a verb, or it will be an adjective in the Greek. And when we travel into the English language, we hit a stump, we hit a wall, because from this platform, both myself and Dr. Scott have said, well, there is no verb in English to faith, but that's not true, actually. And it's not true because when the language began to be developed, I need somebody to come over here. And see if, I'll put it on here, see if you can't get it better. You got to look at the very tiny print in here to see something. Take a look at that. And right next to the word faith, if you can see it, you see a little V? Yes, what does V stand for? Verb. And it also says it's obsolete. And it could have been in the time transitive or intransitive. And faith as a past participle, also obsolete. So it's kind of interesting. Sometimes we think we've got all the answers. I love people that say, well, I listened to Dr. Scott's definition or your definition, but we don't have all the answers. And it's important even here to understand when we talk about faith as an action, it's important to understand we don't really understand all the activity that might go into that one word. For example, in the Greek, in Mark's gospel, the one that says, I believe, help mine unbelief. Well, both of those are pisteo words, but one is a verb, I believe, I faith, and the other one is a noun, help my unbelief. And there's a reason for that. When we begin to analyze these, we begin to understand the one that said, I believe as an action, as a verb, I faith as a verb, help mine unbelief. We know in the Greek we put an A to put it in reverse, but it's a noun. In the dative case, I believe, I faith, help mine unbelief, my state of mind. When you understand how the language works and the development of the language, you suddenly realize we all struggle. We probably struggle more with this one thing. I faith. Help my a-faith, my disfaith. The mind, the motor is willing to go. Yes, preacher said this. Yeah, I claim that in Jesus' name. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. 2 minutes out the door. Oh, God. Right? State of mind or condition. So it's important to understand that when we talk about faith, we're not talking about perfection. We are talking about trusting God. And when you begin to kind of sift this down and take away all the junk that complicates it, you begin to see something really fantastic in the language. Let me show you this real quickly. So for some of you who like to do word digging, we have our English word for faith. And if you follow this word back far enough, you're going to find something, even though I've traced this many times. We have this actually, this is what it would have looked like. This is a letter in the English language that doesn't exist anymore called Thor or thorn, but would be our th. So you see fe here from the root of the Latin stream, which we get our fe, French foi, etc., etc. But even better than that is from another stream. So we have the one Greek word, pistis, and pisteuo, to another word which I've described, which is this peth word, which sometimes is equated to persuasion, which actually may be and is connected to this word, because where we get our F in other languages, they had PH and the IE, and here you've got the Thor or the theta. So it's actually a word that teeters between two Greek words when we bring it into the English. In believe, we know the word believe came from a word that is from to be dear. And the Greek and the German and the Gothic languages trickle down into what is to be dear, which ultimately ends up in the German glauben, glauben. So we don't have a crystallized, although we had a verbal form, ultimately, it disappeared as the language shift began to remove many words. This is just one of them. So faith stayed in, but it was actually originally, just by the construction we know from its most archaic form, it was a verb at one time. In fact, so much so, we're not wrong for saying faithing or faithed or the faithing one. It's not wrong to kind of try and make it a verb, because it was intended as that originally and then just got taken over. And you can trace it back. This wonderful dictionary lets me trace it back to the most unlikely culprit, which is the first theological use occurring in Wycliffe's translation, because it's his first English translation that starts spinning the wheels for the English Bible in 1382, using it in James 2:17. And then a little bit later, Tyndale will pick it up, and it'll be spelt differently, by the way. In Wycliffe's time, it'll be spelt just the way I spelt it, that F-E-I-T-H. And by the time Tyndale, 1526, it will change to F-A-Y-T-H. So even the way things were formed were evolving. And now here we are in this day and age, and we think we can wrap our minds around the concept, but unfortunately we can't, because without understanding there was a verbal form, and what that meant, really the Latin languages help us. We get words in the Latin like fidelità, fidelity, which we translate into trustworthiness or trusting, which carry a better connotation. We begin to talk about the life of faith and faithing. It is trusting, taking God at His word. Now, how many here have done this? Because I have done this. I know God's word. I live in God's word. It is crystal clear to me. And then the stuff hits the fan. And suddenly I keep thinking, it should be different. Shouldn't it be different? It should be different. Shouldn't it be different? It should be different. Shouldn't it be different? Because it should be different. Because it should be different. Because it shouldn't be like this. You done that? Yes, ma'am. Good. Then I'm not abnormal, except for the fact that I speak very quickly. All right. So what do I want to say to you? You don't have to have etymology or Greek. What has to be there for this church, corporately, and for you as individuals, each and every person here. I don't know the needs that came in the door, I'm sensitive to know when I read your letters and your prayer requests. I know we have a lot of needs here. I know that there are people who are extremely sick. I know there are people who are extremely poor here. We've got a whole rainbow, a pot of problems, not a pot of gold, a pot of problems. But then God gives us so graciously the opportunity to start claiming those promises that are specific to our needs and begin acting and ordering our life as if, and what have I told you? I'll speak for me because this really hit me last week and it carried into this week. I'd got a report after church on Sunday about some people who just, they support. They live locally, but they don't attend. And here I am standing and saying, I need you here to encourage me. You don't have to come here to be saved. I need you here to encourage me. Because you don't see what I see, and you don't know what I know. And what I know and what I see, apart from this congregation, are the people in so many far-flung corners of the earth who depend Sunday morning to hear the Word of God. And you are holding up my arms when you're here in the sanctuary. You are encouraging me to come and say, this is why the Lord is faithful. The Lord is faithful because we are here gathered to spread faith outwards. Yes, you came with needs, and your needs will be ministered even if it's a crumb. But last week's events into this week, I started asking the staff to tell me what's going on, because I'm very in tune. I read the letters, I see your faces, I know who's here. And I'm hearing that some people are, they support with their money, but they're not here. Do I have to choose? Because the reality is, I need you here. I also need you to be responding to what you hear when you're here. And I also need some of you to realize that I'm not here to just sermonize you. I'm coming. Some of the people around me hear my lament through the week. If people could only know what I have come to know about God. I'm not saying you don't know. I'm just saying I know God is faithful. I know God will lead. I know God will solve our problems, our budget, our attendance, your sickness, your whatever it is you're going. God will solve those problems if we bring them to Him and say, Lord, no, I'm going to pray about it. I'm going to sit on my hands here. Lord, this is what your word says. I am standing on that which you have proclaimed, forever settled in heaven. It says that you're not a man to lie. It says that in my circumstance, I qualify to come and claim this thing. Now I'll wait. Hopefully I don't have to wait 25 years like Abraham did, but I'll wait. And I'll keep coming back, and I'll keep asking, and I'll keep stirring up the people around me to say, this is a mountain-moving church. We may be a small band, but we are a mountain-moving church, able because God is able to help us. But shouldn't God work this out a little better for us? Well, I have news for you. Answer is no. I really believe if we cannot serve the God who brings the wind and the storm and the rain or the drought, if we cannot serve the God who has givenly gracious and equally has taken away, just like Job, if we cannot figure out the life of faith is not a promise of ease, and you say, but I know all of this, and I know all of this, yet it pained me so much because when I've said to you, some people have an idea that simply hearing something, sifting in their brain, somehow they are immune. They begin to fact. They begin to say, well, I should see this thing, and here comes the devil. And I'm sorry, friends, I'm going to tell you something. We have a small group of people here who are such easy pickings for the devil. Let me talk to you about a couple, a few, and see if you can't find yourself. I won't name names. I'm not calling anybody. I'm not putting a spot. Okay, put the spotlight on that one at the back. Not that. I'm just telling you, this is what happens. You have completely immersed yourself in God, His Word. You're here. I'm going to serve. I'm going to be here. Well, watch the words that come out of my mouth. I'm going to be here until I die. Whoosh. There's the neon light on your back, and the devil says, that one. Go get that one. The minute that commitment, the minute that declaration was uttered, now Satan doesn't know before you utter it, but the minute you open your mouth, what you have said, I've tried to say this to you over the years, what you have said in a declaration of faith has opened up the floodgates of hell upon you. Why do you think your car only breaks down during your commitment or Sunday morning? Well, I never had a flat tire except for Sunday morning. Or my kids never really get sick except for Sunday. I'm not saying the devil has that much power, but I'm telling you, the minute the mouth is open, and there's degrees of this. I'm just going to say this to you. There's degrees of this. If you're not willing to accept this, you're probably not realistic with the God we serve and the way the enemy operates. There used to be a man here many years ago, and I have to tread carefully here. And this person professed to listen to Dr. Scott, love Dr. Scott. Dr. Scott taught all of these great lessons. Oh boy, yes, Doc, that's great, that's wonderful. This same person would make trips to visit Dr. Scott for a professional reason and would take the money out of their tithe for the gas money. Is that faithing or facting, or is that just fudging and stealing? It's a little bit of everything. No, it's not faithing, but it is definitely stealing. The devil knows how to manipulate. Well, I'm doing something for him anyway, so it won't really matter. No, it matters because the tithe belongs to the Lord. How many have heard that? How many have read that? The tithe belongs to the Lord. Well, he won't know, and I'm going there anyway, so, I justify it. Man, you become a target the minute you start justifying doing something to meet your own needs that are, especially this, what is set apart for God. There was no faith activity in that, by the way, that the Lord will make a way, or maybe Dr. Scott would be gracious enough to say, here's money for your gas. But really? Now, there are some people like that. They will cheat God to accomplish the purpose. We've said here, we don't give tax credit. We don't give any tax receipts. Look out, folks. I guarantee you the next thing coming down the pipeline is most churches will lose their tax-exempt status, and we will stand here saying, we never gave it anyway. So, if you were here for that reason, it didn't go very far, did it? But there'll be people who will be offended at that. There's no faith in that. There's no trust in God's word. God said, render to Caesar that which is Caesar's. Give unto God what belongs to him. Don't commingle the two. And people won't put their trust enough in what God's word says to begin to live by that. I can catalog these. Here's this musician we used to have who was doing fine, kind of fine. Well, maybe not too fine, but complained to Dr. Scott that being a benevolent musician and playing to the Lord and for the congregation as a part of a commitment was difficult for him, so he needed to have money. And there was kind of a pressure problem going on, I think, where people pressure other people and they lay the guilt trip on you. I'm going to lose something. I'm going to lose everything. It's the one time that Dr. Scott actually paid, in my time being here, paid a musician. And it did not take long. Within a few weeks, I know because I used to write the checks, by the way. They take stupid pills and think, well, how would she remember that? Because I used to work in the office and I used to see all the bills. Right? So I could see that when this person began to be paid, it was like, meh, it was like a plane crash. Meh, went downhill pretty quickly because we went from ministry to something else, which I'm not wanting to comment on, except to say that that's how the devil manages to work his way in. It's an innocent thing, perhaps, starting out by saying, I can't do this, which then turns into, I need facts. I need to be facting. In order for me to be here, I need to have facts. Well, let me ask you something. If you are facting and you are not faithing, doesn't that say you're not reaching for anything? And if you're not reaching for anything by faith, you're essentially dead because there's only one activity, and that's going forward. Anything else is going in reverse. There's not even a neutral gear. And I'm telling you all these things because at the heart and soul of what conclusion I came to is We're not immune to the storms. We're not immune to the flat tires and the car breaking down and the kids being sick. We're not immune to people calling on the phone lines or writing me letters saying, I've been diagnosed with cancer. Please pray for me. And I don't know what else to do, and I've told you. I don't know exactly where you are. I do know what God's word says. We have this first promise, which is he promises us through his Son, a life eternal. He does promise us healing, whether it's in the now or whether it's when we wake up in his presence healed. He does promise us provision, saying he knows what exactly we need. He talks about this in Matthew 6 and says, seek ye first the kingdom of God. All of these other things that we're anxious about, he says he knows our need. He knows when we are asking over and above what we need versus our need. How many can sit here today and say, because you're here, I kind of think it's the truth, God has seen what you need, not exactly what you want, but what you actually need to get by and has made a way. Show me your hands. Well, that's almost all of you. And God is a faithful God, but he doesn't say, I will take away the storms, I will take away the problems. And this is all backdrop. I told you I wasn't going to go back to Hebrews 11. This is all backdrop for something. I'm going somewhere. As I went through the week, I began to think that maybe my sensitive soul is something wrong with me. I called one of the staff people. We had a really nice conversation. We get along famously and have for well over 18 years. And just said it's uncharacteristic of me to make these type of statements. But I love the church. That shouldn't affect you, but I love the church. I love the Lord. I love Dr. Scott. What more can I do? What is there that I'm not doing? That was the state of mind I was in. You know, you used to hear Dr. Scott talk about quitting. No, I'm not a quitter. I just came to the point of really looking for, where is the hope here? Where is the hope when I tell people we're in a crisis, we're in a battle? And I'm calling people and saying, come on, please step up to the plate. If there was ever a time in 40 years of ministry where you were needed, it's now. And that's not the boy crying wolf. I'm afraid that some of you have heard the many years of people saying we have a battle to fight. Yes, there's the unseen forces, but these are actually seen forces. And my friends, if you don't get serious about the battle we're in, there will be consequences. And this is not an idle threat for me. This is recognizing the power of Satan to penetrate people who have stopped faithing and have begun facting. And all they want is to grab hold of the tangible in the present, in the now, and if they can't see it and have it their way, you better move over. I really, after talking to the staff person, I had to sit down real quietly and just start talking to God. And I essentially was saying to God, I'm not a quitter. I have never backed away from anything. This is one thing in my life, of all the things that I have lived through. Whoever thought, I never thought I'd be a widow. Some people say, what are you, stupid? You married a man who was much older than you. I never thought I'd be a widow. I actually thought the humor was that God would put us together. We were together. We had great love, and it would be one of those tragedies that I would go before him. That was what was. He shared that with you even. He told you this. I never thought for a minute I would be a widow, or that I'd be standing here in front of you, or that any of this, pinch me, would be real. And yet, that's God saying, you can't see it, but I am in control. So it bothered me to the core as I was talking to God. God, I'm at the point where hope seems like it's fading, because I'm talking to people, and I don't know that you're hearing me, and I love you, and I want you to hear me. I want you to hear my heart. I don't want you to hear someone standing behind a pulpit. I want you to hear me. I'm not this. I have a heart for God and a heart for you. And it took a little while. I had to sit quietly. I had to bleed this out a little bit. And then it came to me. God will accomplish his purpose. God will accomplish his purpose for me and this ministry, with or without you, as much as that pains me to say it. God will also accomplish his purpose in your life for you. And when you stop looking at all of the things that are going on, and when hope seemingly is gone, as long as you do not let go of the faith factor, that is, laying hold of, by faith, what you cannot see, what you knew God declared, you'll be okay. You're going to make it. This isn't a shot in the arm pep talk. This is saying you're going to make it. God's going to make sure that you make it. Why? Because His word is at stake. His honor, His Son. And when you take it that seriously, you say, okay, I guess then I should take you to where the Lord ministered and met my needs in the Scriptures. So if you'll turn with me to the book of Acts, because at the core of all this, a familiar passage that just absolutely resonated with me in the book of Acts. A little background for those who are a little newer here, with the Apostle Paul being saved on the Damascus Road and delivered, and he set his course, beginning with the first church council where it's established he will be sent to the Gentiles. And he wants to go to Asia, but he is not allowed to go. It makes perfect sense. If you're going to go preach Christ, go where the multitudes are. But he wasn't allowed. He ends up going to Rome, stops in Jerusalem along the way. A prophet tells him, you'll be bound. You're going to die there. Don't go. With much tears, don't go. But he said it really was for this purpose. He had to go to Rome. Now, I don't want to revisit the whole book of Acts, but I just want to say it's pretty impossible. If you think about all the things that Paul went through, and I think to myself, here is a man who was beaten, every possible thing that could come upon an individual. And this was God's chosen vessel. And you and I think we should have it easy, or we should be any different. And I really began thinking, as familiar as this is, I really began thinking, what is my problem? And what is your problem, perhaps, as we've been facting? We have been thinking it shouldn't be like this. That somehow, you think about it. When Paul was thrown in prison, he goes to Macedonia, and then he's thrown in prison there. What did he do? Why was he thrown in prison? He was preaching the gospel. And if you really make sense of this, you can't. How could God have such a great conversion in the heart of a man, turn him around, and then everywhere he goes, there is chaos? I sometimes feel like we just read the book, and that's not a real person. And then it dawned on me. After Paul preaches in front of Agrippa, my famous passage I like to quote, where Agrippa says to Paul, "Almost thou persuadest me to be a Christian." Imagine the man who penned 2/3 of the New Testament. He almost persuaded him. But if you read the last verse of the 26th chapter, Agrippa said to Festus, "This man might have been set at liberty if he had not appealed unto Caesar." Do you realize when Paul said he had to go to Rome, had he not opened his mouth, maybe they would have released him. And instead, the 27th chapter opens with the prisoners that are going to board the ship, and Paul, by about the 9th or 10th verse of the 27th chapter, is admonishing them, saying to them, "Sirs, I perceive that this voyage will be with hurt and much damage, not only of the lading and ship, but also of our lives." He pleaded with them to not go. And he was part of that prisoner chain being put onto that ship. They didn't listen to him, and they board the ship. And please don't read this like you've read this before. I want you to read this with the mindset that says, it should be different, shouldn't it? It should be way different. Because I have decided to follow Jesus, and I won't sing it. It should be different, right? No. The pattern we have is what's put before us. The pattern isn't those people who write popular books. The pattern isn't those people on TV. The pattern is right in front of you on the pages of this book, where it says, after they set sail, a tempestuous wind took up, and the ship was caught and could not bear up under the wind. I mean, after all this, after all of these events, after everything that's happened, this great conversion, preaching here, establishing churches, writing letters, being put in prison for 2 years and almost rotting there, somebody might say, let's modernize this because I'm modernizing it. I think Melissa Scott is very much like this. And anybody looking on who doesn't know the Bible would say, you just have a storm that follows you everywhere you go. That's why I said, look out. You're marked people. Don't forget that you're first his treasured possession and he loves you. But man, the storms will come. And when they do, I want you to really think about what one thing that ministered to me, and I pray it ministers to you. After the storm has come up and the ship was caught, they could not bear it up into the wind. It says, we let her drive, and running under a certain island which is called Clauda, we had much work to come by the boat. And then they were tossed exceedingly. The next day they lightened the ship. The third day we cast out with our own hands the tackling of the ship. And when neither sun nor stars in many days appeared, and no small tempest lay on us, all hope, I know you've read this a million times. Read it, say it with me, because it's something we probably have all experienced. All hope that we should be saved was taken away. You been there? I've been there. Well, you think this is impossible. God, there should not be a storm. I'm going according to your will. You ever done that? Come on. If you don't admit to that, you're a liar, because you're saying, now, God, I have turned my life over. I've trusted you. You're serious? When I was reading this, it dawned on me. All hope that we should be saved was then taken away. And we know this. It was after that. It was after that. But faith did not stop. Hope disappeared. Faith did not stop. Why? Because, listen to what Paul says, but after a long abstinence, Paul stood forth in the midst of them and said, sirs, you should have hearkened unto me. See, I told you. You should have listened. So I told you, I don't like to say that, but sometimes you really do need to listen to me. When I tell you something, it's not because I want to stand here. I don't lord it over you. I know how much the Lord loves this church and loves you. And don't think because you are caught in some tempest right now that either you could be like me. I was thinking, God, there has got to be a let up here. Listen to what he says. You should have listened to me. And have not loosed from Crete, and to have gained this harm and loss. Now I exhort, listen, he says, I exhort you to be of good cheer, courage. A wise man once said, that's 90% of faith, courage. That's why he also said, Dr. Scott said, that God hates cowards. Now, there's a big difference between being a coward and being pressed down by the circumstances. God does not ask us to be stoic. He doesn't say, don't cry and don't blink and don't sigh. I exhort you to be of good courage. For there shall be no loss of any man's life among you, but of the ship. For there stood by me this night an angel of God, whose I am, whom I serve. Now, I haven't had an angel stand by me, but in that moment I believe that I had God whispering in my ear, read this passage. The Lord knows the desires of my heart. For you who are sick to be healed, oh, would I love to see the testimony of people who are terminally sick in this ministry, who, although they're taking medication, they need God's touch in their life. They need to feel. Would I love to see that? How fast can you say your name backwards? Don't answer. Yes. Some of you who don't even have enough money to get on a bus, or some who just barely make it, living in less than stellar conditions. I want God to bless you, absolutely. And I think sometimes when all hope is gone, which does happen, we begin to look at the circumstances and we start facting. We start saying, it should be like this, it should be like this, instead of saying, God said this, and I am going to stand on that which He has said. And by the way, I'll say it for me individually. If I should die standing on God's promises, claiming, holding on to, for me, the greatest one, He did say He'll build His church. You are His church. He did say He loves His children. You are His children. He said He'll never leave you nor forsake you. All of these things which I pray, even though you know them and you can probably recite them in your sleep, that they become a fresh reality today. He says, Paul, back to the chapter we're in, he says, fear not. The angel of the Lord spoke to him, saying, fear not, Paul, thou must be brought before Caesar, and lo, God hath given thee all them that sail with thee. Thou must be brought before Caesar. You're going to go to Rome. He had set his course. You're going to go to Rome. You will go to Rome, and you will be a testimony. Well, that testimony we know ends up in death, but you will go there. And when it didn't look like he was going to get there, and when it looked like the storm was going to overtake him, and when it looked like everything was not going to make that happen, it happened that way, as essentially was foretold, as was declared. And the promise that I want you to walk away with today is not so much a promise of something to reach into God's book and say, this is my personal situation and circumstance, so much as a reality that when hope is gone, as long as faith remains, you're going to be okay. Not because Melissa Scott said so, but because God's word declares that. All the promises are ours. We know that in Christ, in Him, yea, and in Him, amen. But rather that the word that you and I are standing on was settled in heaven, and if settled and established in heaven, well, God will have to tell you and tell me why He didn't make it come to pass, but your and my responsibility is to hold on and to keep trusting. And what I love, obviously, in this whole situation, it's not over. By the way, it's not over. If you want to, in your own time, read the rest of this and find out that the troubles and the storms, and that wasn't the end of it. There was still more to come from this man's life. But that tells me something. If you are going to walk with God, it's not only going to cost you something. When people say it's all free, well, the gospel came at a price. And when you walk with God, why do you think Jesus said, if you want to follow Him, you've got to pick up your cross? That means there's a little burden bearing that you're going to have to do. And in the process, He says, lo, I am with you always. Now, I don't know if you're like me. I think I had one of those weeks where everything just kind of collided. You ever have those? It all happens all at once, and you wonder, be honest, come on now, don't play this, I don't want people to see me. Have you ever thought, you just must have the worst bleep luck in the world? Come on now. Well, that's only about half of you. But the reality is, you know what I'm talking about. You have been walking, claiming the promises, and suddenly you think, it sure ought to be different than this, because God had said something, spoken to your heart at one point. You, like a flower, you believed, and here we are. But faith is infinitely more than just belief. Belief with the mind, and by the way, you can put your trust in anything, but when you're putting your trust in God and His Word, that's saving faith. So what I'm asking of you today, if you came here, if you are lost or feeling a little shipwrecked, or feeling like it's just, everything's just plain, here's the B word. Ready for the B word? Broken. It's broken, God. I don't know what your broken is, but I've had a lot of broken this week. And I realized hope may be lost, but faith is not. I'm standing here today telling you the Lord ministered through this passage for me to come here knowing that I don't know exactly the details of where you are, but there are plenty of people listening who have lost hope, who think there's no way out of this thing. Whatever it is, that is your thing. There's no way out. And I'm here to tell you, God has a plan. You have got to start by faithing, not facting. The circumstances are what they are. They are not going to change magically because you decided suddenly to take hold of God's word. But look out. God may actually do the thing that you need done, and then you'll be surprised, like, wow, did you see that? Why do we act that way? Why are we surprised? Why should I come in here on a Sunday morning and be surprised that not only are you all here, but the sanctuary is full? Because that's what God's promise is. Yet, I think I'd be grossly surprised to come in here and see the sanctuary full. Or how about meeting our budget? How about the things? You can see mine is all about the church. I'm full ready to say that's the first thing in my life. God and the church, because they're one and the same. But for some of you, you have different things pressing in immediately that you will confront when you go out this door. Please don't take this as just some Sunday morning message that, well, pastor said this and she had a bad week. No, I had a week from hell. I don't want to just call it a bad week. I want to call it a hell week. And some of the staff actually made it more hellish than necessary. And I totally forgive them because they are not immune, and neither am I. No one is. To that giant target on your back that once you say, I'm here, and man, oh man, take me and use me, you will be used. Just watch that you're not being used by the devil, because he knows how to come as an angel of light and disguise himself to do his bidding. And then when he's done with you, by the way, which may be a month, a year, or 10 years from now, he will take you like this and throw you away because he doesn't need you anymore. He accomplished his purpose. Meanwhile, you will be like the prodigal and perhaps come back to your senses and realize that the only one who has ever given you a promise to be with you, he didn't say, I will make sure that hope sustains and hope remains, but faith in him and the promise that he is with you. So if you're feeling a little bit broken, if you're feeling like this is so messed up and there's no way out, I'm asking you to stop right now, put the brakes on mentally and say, wait a minute, that is the seen circumstance God is not dealing with. Even though the circumstances are real, he's not dealing with my facts right now. He's looking at my faith. And when I come to the conclusion the storms are part of life, even the shipwreck may be part of life to teach me something, I will come out just like Paul came out going to Rome. He met his death there. Some of us are probably feeling like whatever it is we're going through is going to kill us, but I'm telling you, I'm here today. I was feeling that way a little while back, earlier in the week. I'm here today to tell you that's just a lie from the pit of hell. Because the truth of the matter is, the same God who loves me and who loves you, who says you are my treasured possession, also says, we're going to see what the stuff is made out of now. Come on, get in the ship, let's go. And the promise he gave to Paul was a comforting word that said, courage, you're going to go to Rome. I'm telling you, courage, we're going to make it. Courage, you're going to make it. Courage, God has already said it and done it. Will you stand and believe that with me in Jesus' name? That's my message. Come on. You've been watching me, Pastor Melissa Scott, live from Glendale, California at Faith Center. If you would like to attend the service with us Sunday morning at 11 a.m., simply call 1-800-338-3030 to receive your pass. If you'd like more teaching and you'd like to go straight to our website, the address is www.pastormelissascott.com.